It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill. And starting today and for the next 3 weeks, we're going to do like a series. So it's going to be kind of what to expect during a build, during a cut, and at maintenance. I think this first one is like important because so often people use like the word like bulking, or they don't really know what it means to like build, or what it takes, or what your inputs should look like to change your physique. And body recomposition term floats around a lot these days. So we want to map out like, what does it look like to do that effectively? The other part that I see often is women who come to me and say, oh, I was in a build last year, or I did a build with my last coach, or I did a reverse and it didn't work for me. So this is to give you clarity of all of those scenarios of like, this is what it looks like to do one that is effective and what your inputs should look like realistically to get the most out of that period of, or that phase, I guess, that you're in.
So, did you talk about the other 2 episodes? Sorry, I know you said This is going to be a series. Okay, yeah. Cool. Go. So we start almost all of our clients in a build phase. Now, this is not to say that every single person has been under eating and needs a build for the sake of metabolic restoration. However, almost everybody could benefit in speeding up their metabolism by adding more muscle mass. And what's really cool about this is during this phase, we're also able to work on habits while not restricting calories, right? So when we have higher calories, it's way easier within those calories to get enough protein, to practice eating fiber and colors and not feel restricted, right? So there's so many different benefits to this health-wise, but also habit-wise. So that's why we tend to spend like the first 4 months or so building. Now, if we knew we would have every client with us for a year or 2, I would spend a solid 6 to 8 months building before ever going into a deficit. And now you guys who are listening might be like, no, I need to lose weight yesterday. I can't spend money hiring you and not lose weight in the first 8 months. However, what ends up happening is a lot of time people are losing inches. They're losing body fat along the way. We're not seeing the scale go down, but body recomposition is happening. So we're building muscle and we're losing body fat. And we're adapting your body to higher and higher calories. And then when we do go into that deficit, it's so much easier. You do not have to cut as low because your body is now used to higher calories. You can get in and get out and see a really effective 2 to 3 month fat loss phase, and then maintain it and you've already learned how to maintain it during this build. So the key point of the build is really to build muscle. Okay. So again, we do not want this to be confused with a typical bodybuilder's, oh, it's bulking season, right? Like our goal is to build as much muscle and as little added body fat as possible as we continue to push that threshold of calories higher and higher, and eat plenty of protein and send strength signals to your muscles. I always say it like it's an equation or like a chemical solution, right? You are not going to get added muscle mass if you are not eating enough protein and strength training effectively along with those added calories, right? If you're just adding calories, that's what the rest of America does. And that's why everybody's obese, right? We need to send those signals of strength training and enough protein along with it to yield that muscle gain. So with that said, our gold standard in terms of metrics is to look at not just weight, because again, weight might increase during this phase, but to look at inches and photos as well. If your weight is increasing slowly, but your inches are the same or lower, that means you are gaining the right type of weight, healthy, lean tissue. And again, some people might hear this and say, no, I don't want to see the scale go up. Okay, but what if your pants are fitting better? What if you're feeling better in your skin? What if you look more toned? Then does it matter as much, right? Like that's a sign. If your inches are going down, that's a sign you're losing body fat. But if you're staying the exact same and you're building muscle, your metabolism is now better equipped to burn more calories all the time, even when you're not lifting. So in terms of like what to expect, again, as long as inches are the same or lower, I tend to prep clients to say, hey, it's pretty normal to gain like 4 to 6 pounds during a build phase. Now, one, you're going to have a couple pounds of food. Like if you have more food physically in your stomach, that's some weight on the scale, right? 2, whenever we increase carbs, which will happen when we increase calories, our body retains a little bit more water. So we have that weight. As soon as we drop calories back down, we lose that weight. That is not body fat weight. 3, if we're gaining muscle and we're doing all the right things, a really awesome amount of muscle gain would be like a half a pound to a pound a month. Now, the more advanced you are as a lifter, the harder it is to build muscle, right? Then maybe we're really working hard just to gain a quarter of a pound of muscle a month, right? But if you're doing everything right and you can build a half a pound to a pound of muscle a month, wow, after 6 months of that build, you are going to have a different body composition and you're really going to be able to show it off and have a faster metabolism when you then do go into that cut. So again, anywhere from, depending on how long your build is, anywhere from like 4 to 10 pounds is appropriate and can be very healthy as long as you're ensuring that you're hitting your protein, doing your strength training, and you're not gaining inches along with that.
Yeah, that data is so important. Like I even have current clients that initially, because there's like, I don't know, attachment, for lack of a better word, to the scale. Sometimes we do have to present even current clients that are working with us with logic and data until they kind of make that shift mentally of, so for example, I have this client and the scale has kind of been teetering up within like 3 pounds of her starting weight. And she's like, I'm freaking out. I've never weighed this much. And I'm like, hold on a second, because I actually did a whole reel on my Instagram of her pictures, like, and the changes that she's made only a couple weeks in, not to mention all of the incredible comments she's made about like her relationship with food, how much energy she feels with more protein. So all of these like other positive shifts, but I was like, look how fit you look in this picture. And we're only a couple weeks in, like your clothes are fitting better. You've reported all of these other things. Your inches are all down, but the scale is up 3 pounds. You've never lifted like this and with this much, not intensity, but like lifting heavier, this intentionally, I guess is a good word. And she was like, oh, no, you're totally right. So it's interesting. She came to me to train for life, right? And to get healthy, but she had a vacation coming up. And I was like, listen, deficit right now does not really make sense based on our timeline. However, we're in this reverse. I'm not pushing the capacity as much as I normally would because you have this trip in 3 weeks. But look at the positive changes that you're making. Like this is best case scenario. And she's like, amazing. You're right. Like I'm obsessed. I'm not running like I used to anymore. She only does her walks and she does 1 run a week. But she was like, I had no idea like this kind of input would breed this drastic of a change like this quickly. So anyway, to Jess's point, that data is so helpful and so important, and why you should monitor your progress in the gym, like your weights, your sets, your reps, but also your inches and your pictures and how your clothes fit. If you have more energy after the gym, if you are feeling better. So all of that data is super important for an effective build phase so that you are actually getting the most out of that time you're spending in the gym.
And a lot of times I think when people are struggling and they think they've done a build phase, but they're like, nothing's changing, I look the same as last time. There's usually a couple big missing links. Like the one is that you're just not eating enough. And I would say this for many of the women that I've worked with who say, oh yeah, I reverse dieted, or I was in a build phase. And meanwhile, their body never really changes. Usually they're just not eating enough. Like you physically need, our food converts to stored energy, right? Now, where that new tissue goes depends on what the foods are and what the muscle building signals are. But you can't build more tissue without enough food because your body needs to take that energy from somewhere, right? So a lot of times women stay in this little cycle of looking the same, even though they're really trying to work to change their physique, because they're doing a lot of the right things in the gym and they're just not giving the bricks to their contractors who are doing that, who are building that house, right? Like those workers are standing around waiting to be given the materials and they have nothing to build with.
Yeah.
So more food. And then the second one is really not effective training, right? Like training because you think harder is better or sweatier is better or more sore is better, as opposed to strategically hitting certain muscle groups a certain number of hard sets per week and strategically progressing. So I talk to clients about this a lot, but like we want to make every set really hard. Not necessarily like, oh, this feels like the hardest workout of my life. We want to make every set really hard and very strategically hit certain muscle groups and or functions a certain number of times per week. So how you're training could be that missing link there.
I feel like I was going to say most of the time, I feel like it's like you said, well, I'm burning this many calories, but I'm sweating, but I'm so sore after my workouts. And it's like, nope, we're totally missing the point of like what an effective workout looks like. Honestly, a lot of times when clients come to us and say, I work out this many days and I'm not getting results, they'll do our workouts and be like, well, this is boring. And I'm like, hold on a second.
Or too easy. They'll say it's too easy because they're not sweating or they're not. Yeah. Sorry. Continue.
But it's because we have this 90-second to 2-minute rest period programmed. And now I know that you weren't working as hard. We weren't actually working hard enough in the manner to change your physique in the gym based on you saying, well, can I shorten my rest periods? Well, these sets aren't hard. Well, why are there only 2 sets of this? Because you need to give it your all and actually push yourself and challenge yourself. And I have a client who's been with me for a while and she's like, hey, I can't get my squat past 150. And this has never happened before. I've never stalled this much. And I was like, well, have you put more than 150 on the bar? No. I'm like, so go do that and then come back to me.
How many reps did you get, right? Like,
I was like, go add 10 pounds this week. We'll keep it light and conservative with what I'm recommending. Come back to me and tell me if you can do 3 sets of 8.
How many reps can you do? Yeah.
She was like, you were right. I don't know why. But we get in our heads like, well, this is hard, so I can't progress. And it's like, well, did you even try? Just do it. I'm not saying hurt yourself. Obviously, don't be an idiot.
And we're never programming like a 1 rep max for clients because the risk does not outweigh the reward. But like if we're programming an 8 to 10 rep range, what's the worst thing that happens? You can only get 5. Great. Yeah. Then you put the bar back on the rack and now you know what you're capable of. So physical changes to look out for when you are in an effective build phase. As our inches are staying the same over the course of time, right? Like we might bloat 1 week and then it drops right back down, but everything's staying, I would say, within 1 inch, pretty relatively stable. You are getting strong as heck. Okay. So strength should be increasing throughout this, or it's a sign that maybe we're not doing something right in terms of our food intake, our recovery, or we might be overtraining or undersleeping, or our food, our effectiveness in our programming. So more strength, increased energy and libido. I just had a client who told me like my hair has never been as thick as when you brought me through a build phase. Like you should be feeling generally more healthy, better sleep and recovery, improved food flexibility and digestion. Now, with all of this, our body does need to adjust some. So like if you're somebody who has been dieting chronically at really low calories and now we're increasing food intake, the first couple weeks might be uncomfortable because your gut needs to adjust to eating more. But eventually, once we're actually adapted to these amounts, typically you feel a lot better. And then there often are slight changes in fullness, bloat. The feeling of, I don't know, I feel a little fluffy. Is this normal? Sometimes yes. Okay. So it shouldn't be like some severe bloat issue. But if we just increased your calories last week, and this is your first time eating 2,200 calories a day, you might feel a little bit bloated that first week as your body's adjusting. Again, physically, there's more food in your system also. But it's the same thing if somebody had like an alcoholic beverage last weekend or high sodium a couple nights before, then their inches go up a little bit more on their belly and their weight goes up and they freak out. Time out. If our calories and our protein are consistent, I would almost bet that in 3 days, if we weigh ourselves again, it's going to drop right back down, right? So again, we're looking at trends over time. We are never nitpicking or worrying from week to week, one measurement or one photo. Like I do today look insanely different in terms of leanness versus last week when I was PMSing. I looked far more bloated because that was just the time that my body is holding on to water and stuff, right? So again, we're looking at trends over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I even had a client recently who's like, I'm so swollen, I can't even get my rings on. Like, what's happening? And I'm like, we're 2 weeks into this new lifting program. I actually looked at her food and I was like, your sodium intake is actually quite low for where your calories are. So I had her add in some electrolytes. We looked at recovery and then I just was like, hey, kind of hang in there for a second and let your body adjust. 2 weeks later, she's like, no, I'm totally fine. Like everything you said was like, everything level off. My rings are good. So, but she also had a spike on the scale and she was like, oh my God, something's wrong. And I'm like, no. Just like let your body adjust for a second. That initial like inflammatory response, like Jess said, all these other changes and factors as your body's adapting. So, I do
inches
think
are stable. Like we're always, it's our job to make sure that you're not gaining the wrong type of weight. And if you are, we're having very honest conversations that, hey, we got to reel it in here, or it's because we're not hitting this goal over here. I think a lot of people also will ask like, well, how high am I supposed to go? That is going to depend on each person. Our gold standard is like no grown woman should be eating less than 2,000 calories a day while they are maintaining or building. Like everybody, your body can utilize that much just sitting around. However, some clients, if they're much more active, we can push higher and higher and higher. So typically the way I message this to clients is during our build phase, in an effort to manipulate your metabolism and make a Sunday cut easier, I'm going to keep pushing as long as I don't see inches increasing over time. I'm going to push as high as we can go without gaining inches. Once we get to that place where either I'm like, oh, okay, I'm starting to see inches go, I'm going to pull it back a little. Either I'm making that call, or as a client, you're saying like, I can't eat anymore. Like I'm so full and I feel so satisfied and I'm able to enjoy social stuff and I'm getting in all my nutrients and I'm just full. Okay, cool. That's when we call it. Now, your body and your hunger cues also adjust, right? If you've skipped meals every day for the last 2 years, you're going to be like, oh no, I'm so full when you tell me to add breakfast, right? But that's because your body's just not used to it. Once we've adapted your body to this, and this is a slow process, by the time we get there, usually most women are like, this is wild. I can't believe I can get away with eating this much and enjoy my life and enjoy time out with my friends and feel good, and not have to like worry because I have the wiggle room for it because my metabolism, I'm not gaining inches. Again, I'm going to keep clarifying inches equal body fat. I'm not gaining inches. So how high can you go? I would say most of our clients were getting somewhere between like 2,300 calories a day. Some only to 21, some only, right, if they've had a long dieting history, or if they're not as active every day. Some as high as like 2,900. We have one woman right now who's training for a marathon, and her coach has her at like 3,000 calories a day, and her body's maintaining it fine. So it just totally depends on the person.
Yep, absolutely. And then I think we kind of covered this in terms of like where people kind of get stuck, but just too much emphasis on the scale when if you're building muscle, you are going to see the scale go up. Like that's what we want, but it's within reason. It should not be like, fat gain can happen really quickly. I think people associate though more food with their YOLO periods versus like a strategic reverse diet and intentionally eating more food with protein and good food quality. Like that is going to look vastly different through a build and or maintenance phase than just air quotes bulking like a bodybuilder does, where it's just like, I'm going to eat a shit ton of food and add body fat. Our goal is always for clients in a build that, yes, we're seeing the scale go up in a healthy way. Doesn't always have to go up. Sometimes people do
maintain
early enough in their journey where body fat is coming down a little bit as muscle's going up, which is like body recomp, of course. Newer lifters tend to fall more into that category, but there should be very minimal gain. Certainly no, like fat gain is not necessary to go through a reverse diet or a build/maintenance process. Unless somebody, obviously there's anomalies where somebody needs to add body fat for whatever reason, but that's really the intention. But people think like, more food, fat gain, and it's like, no, you just haven't ever intentionally and strategically eaten more food. You're either all in or all out. So I think that
also,
shift comes quickly too.
I think that there's this misconception, and I've seen it mostly with like former athletes who are like, no. I build muscle way too fast. So I don't want to do a build phase because like my quads get too big or my back gets too big or my glutes, whatever it is. And my question is always, when you were training like that, were you also tracking your food? And they are like, well, no. Okay. So what ends up happening is when you're training hard and you're putting this big demand on your body, you just get hungrier. So sometimes what happens naturally is when people are not tracking their food intake and they are lifting, really following a good routine for the first time, they're like, oh no, lifting makes me gain body fat. And it's no, you were in a caloric surplus and you didn't realize that you were actually overeating. We weren't monitoring the types of foods we were eating. And you were putting on excess body fat along with that muscle mass, right? Muscle mass does not take up a lot of space, and it is hard to put it on. Okay. No women are putting on too much muscle mass without really trying. And oftentimes the people who are in bodybuilding and stuff are taking steroids in order to look that way. So if you've experienced that in the past, give it a chance while actually monitoring data. And what you'll find is, not a whole lot's changing, but maybe I see a line in my leg now where there's some more definition, or maybe I can just pick up a bag of dog food at the store with less effort. Like physically, there shouldn't be that much change if you're doing it in a strategic way. And then once you trim down the body fat on top, you're like, oh, okay, that's actually fun. And I like the way it looks underneath, right? So that's all. Usually it's the discomfort around the body fat on top that already was an uncomfortable thing, and now you're nervous to be building underneath. But like oftentimes we are revealing, okay, a perkier butt if we're building a butt. It's not just like we're a more symmetrical shape that looks more hourglassy, right? Like it ends up being a really fun physique thing. While also, I'm talking a lot about physique, obviously, but I say that because most of our clients come to us for that reason originally. But also hormonally, metabolically, you're in a healthier place, having more muscle tissue on your body. Like muscle helps us process glucose. Muscle uses a lot of calories just to live on our body. It's going to allow you to enjoy food freedom and fun and improve your relationship with food a little bit more. Functionally, it's going to help you live longer so you don't wither away if you ever break a bone. Like it's going to help with bone mass and avoiding osteoporosis, which a lot of women struggle with. So there are so many health things too that come along with how much muscle can we get on your body, because muscle's really hard to build.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that building muscle is just wildly underrated. I think people also don't realize, like, they have hormonal concerns, but then they're going to HIIT classes and things like that. Like building muscle in and of itself can work wonders for hormones, especially things like insulin resistance, and cortisol is a dependent situation, but it can help with so much for your hormones, for your just longevity and health in life. Adding muscle is just healthy. One of the most beneficial things that you can do for the sake of your health, your mobility, just everything in life long term. So obviously I know that's like steering away, but the reason I'm saying that is to really understand the intention behind a build is like, yes, it can drastically transform your physique, but it's also
it's not about physique for us.
Health. Yeah.
I'm talking about physique because I know that's what women want when they're in this uncomfortable place in their body. But man, the health payoff is so huge. It's tremendous.
Like there's so much that you get out of that. Not to mention just like the mental aspect from being consistent with something, doing things that are hard, and pushing yourself through that, going to the gym, having healthy habits, doing that instead of sitting on the couch and watching extra Netflix. Like there's just so much mental benefit that comes from that. And one of the things I always talk about too, that I think is underrated, is when you see a girl or even a guy with muscle and you're like, damn, like that person is fit. We are in the world of GLP-1 and instant gratification. You can't cheat that, even with fucking steroids. Like you still have to work really hard to do those things. So instantly I'm like, respect for this person, because they're busting their ass and that they are like, you can't fake that. A
disciplined human being.
Yeah. So that's the other cool part too.
I think I get a lot of questions too about, usually it's at the beginning of the process. And then at the end of this phase, most clients are like, oh, I don't even want to go into a deficit because this feels so fun. But at the beginning, I get a lot of questions around like, am I going to have to eat this much forever? And it's like, no. Okay. So a strategic muscle build, we want to be in a slight surplus. I want to push you a little bit past whatever that capacity is. That's your body's like maintenance. And again, we're not finding maintenance based on a calculator online. We're finding it based on how your body adapts, because we can actually push that maintenance higher and higher. Once we've built, though, let's say we've done a couple of rounds of builds, cuts, and you're at a place where you're like, I feel great in my body. I want to wean off of tracking. I just want to maintain right now. Awesome. Maintenance for you might look a little bit different, right? So like the difference between a muscle building phase and a maintenance phase is, okay, I'm finding a spot where I'm just maintaining where I am. I'm not having to push that capacity a little bit beyond. If I'm building at 2,800, maybe my maintenance is at 2,400 or so. When I start to wean off of tracking, I'm intuitive eating more, I'm listening to my body, but I want to find a place that is comfortable for me to also get away with enjoying some life indulgences that I like, right? I don't want to maintain where my body adapts to 1,600 every day. And then when I want to go out on a weekend and have different foods, now it sends me into a surplus, right? I want to find a place to maintain that can allow me to get all my nutrients, eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and protein and whole foods, and have some wiggle room for fun foods and be able to maintain for the sake of like quality of life, and to be able to have ice cream with my kids when I feel like it and stuff like that without it really affecting me too much. Again, from a physical health standpoint, is there any physical health benefit to adding ice cream? No, but like from a quality of life standpoint, there is, right? So like to be able to have that balance and flexibility at the end of the day is what we strive to get all of our clients to someday. So that's going to be episode 3 in the series. We're going to talk about, okay, you've done all these things, now what? But again, a build is a very strategic, how much muscle can we put on your body while adding as little body fat as possible to really like create a higher metabolic ceiling and get your body really ramped up working for you.
Yeah. So, okay. Summary, Jessica, hit them with the summary of like takeaways from this episode. And
okay. If you want to look leaner later, build muscle. Period. If you want to be healthier, build muscle. Muscle is like an investment, whereas just working out for the sake of burning calories is like clocking in and clocking out of a job. The more muscle you can put on, the longer that your money's going to work for you. That muscle's going to work for you in your metabolic health and in your physical fitness and how good you feel in your body too. So build muscle. It is not fast. It takes a long time. So again, in an ideal world, I would have clients do a 6-month build as a non-negotiable, and I would convince some to do an 8 or 9 month build, because most of the time we should not be dieting. If we choose to diet, maybe that's a 3-month phase of our whole entire year. Most of the time we should be practicing healthy habits, practicing getting strong, practicing adding nourishment and nutrients to our body.
Love it. Hope that was helpful. Super excited to share the other 2 parts of this series. So stay tuned. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.